Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It was another hot day here, but I made it through. It's going to be really hot coming up the next few days, so we'll see how I hold up. But as for right now, I'm just glad to be home. I was thinking about things of what I was going to talk about today, and I think the topic at hand tonight will be starting over. I think starting over is something we can all pretty much relate to. I've recently had to start over within the last, 4 months. I would want to say 4 months. I've never been someone who planned ahead. I think a lot of it has to do with my upbringing and things that have happened to me in my life. I've never really been someone that looked toward the future and had an idea of what I wanted to be when I grew up. I think if you would have asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be when I grew up, I think I just wanted to be a grown-up or a mom. I wanted to be a grown-up. That I remember. I thought, I will be a grown-up. No one will tell me what to do. I will be in control. I won't have to answer to anyone. I'll have all the answers in life, and I can do as I please. You can imagine the look on my face. Boy, was I wrong. I got myself into comfortable situations, but not really patterns. Things that I never really had the answers for long term, but I had a good enough pattern where for the foreseeable future, I had a routine. And routine for me was enough. I grew up with a lot of chaos, so routine seemed like bliss to me, like the answer. And things happen in your life, and they shake you to your core. And sometimes you have to regroup. And that's where you find out what you're made of. What kind of tough stuff you got, or what kind of less than tough stuff you got. For me, there was a death, and it pushed me to the forefront where I was not able to have another person to help me financially. I had to take the bull by the horns and be accountable for myself. That's happened to me quite a few times in my life. I think the first time I really felt where I needed to start over was, of course, the death of my mother. That was something that we all know no one lives forever, but her death was sudden. And I think that I can't speak for everyone, but when you lose a parent, you become mortal very quickly. You realize it's someone that you always thought of as living forever. They become very mortal when they die, and it pushes you up to the top of the list, especially with me being the oldest. I was like, oh no, and all those little things you take for granted, like when you go out for lunch or you go shopping and mom picks up the bill, suddenly they're not there anymore, and you realize you have to do for your own. And it's not just monetary things that I remember and miss about my mom, of course. When I hurt, when I'm scared, when I'm going through something, I always want to revert back to going to find my mom and just getting a hug or some reassurance. Just her voice of approval. All the time growing up, I was always battling against that. But what I realized is that she was a really good judge of character, and she knew from experience, from living, and I really trusted that. Plus, she raised us as a single parent, and to me, there is no stronger person than the single parent. They have to sacrifice and be both mother and father, good guy and bad guy. To think back at the sacrifices that she made, I was in awe of that. In fact, at her memorial, when I finally had a chance to speak, I didn't have the words to say. All I could really say was, my mom is my mom. And I remember saying things about her, but I remember ending it with saying that I have nothing but the utmost respect for single parents. They do an amazing job. So if you are a viewer of mine and you're a single parent, give yourself a pat on the back, because you totally deserve it. As well as parents, because that's a difficult job too. But then I lost my father-in-law. He was a very special person. And he was sick for a while. So I was in a caretaker mode. And I was in a caretaker mode for the last, I want to say 8 years. And he finally passed on. And it was so bittersweet, because I didn't want to see him suffering anymore, but I miss him. I miss his face. I miss his stories. I miss his laugh. He was a great, wonderful person with a great personality, and I certainly hope, with faced with that kind of adversity, that I handled it with a tenth of his courage and sense of humor about it. I'll never forget him. But then when he passed, my life changed again, and I had to relocate, and I had to focus all the time that I spent worrying about him and focus it on myself, which is a lot harder than it sounds, because when you're someone who is a people pleaser, or someone that likes to deflect and not really focus on things that are going on with themselves, it's really easy to get lost in the caretaker mode. You get a lot of pats on the back from people who think you're doing a good job, but you never secretly think you've done enough. You always wish you did more. And I know for myself, when he passed, even though I know it was God's will and it was time, I took it as a personal loss, like I failed at something. And I know I shouldn't feel that way. And I think a lot of it was because I knew that my life would change and that I would have to regroup and start over and reorganize and reprioritize. And now I'm left with the task at hand and taking care of myself and making myself a priority. And that is a lot harder than it seems. But I'm doing it. And I think having this channel is really helping me. Talking about my issues, continuing with my therapy, staying grounded is really helping. My relationship is growing. I'm finding my partner again. You know, being a caretaker, it takes a toll on a relationship. I can imagine a lot of relationships lose their luster. A lot of partners probably lose their way and lose each other. And I'm so happy to report that that didn't happen in my case. If anything, it brought us closer. There were some bumpy times. Boy, were there bumpy times. We were lashing out at each other because we were just so angry at the situation at hand. It was a sacrifice that we had to make, where you have to put yourself on the back burner to take care of someone else. Which I know people with children are probably thinking, well, parents do that all the time. It's a whole different thing when you're not a parent and you're taking care of someone, especially an adult, someone who has their own, excuse me, I have an itchy nose, someone who has their own pride and their own will and their own set of rules that they live their life by, and they have to give up a lot of their independence, and that's sad to see, and they have to surrender it to you. And I'm sure there's resentment that comes with that. But I have to say that my father-in-law never showed an ounce of resentment. And for that, I'm so grateful. So grateful. His name was George. He was a wonderful man. I love him very much. I think about him every day. And now, it's not about George anymore. It's about me. It's about Mike. It's about everyday life and picking up the pieces. It's about grieving. It's about moving on. It's about carrying on. It's about living. It's about continuing. And it's difficult. There's days I just can't do it. I find myself wishing and hoping and living in the past. And it's a nice fairy tale, but it's just not realistic. So every day I just say my prayers and take one step in front of the other and let the day take me where it's going to go. And for anyone that's going through this or is a caregiver right now, I understand the burnout. I understand the guilt. I even understand the resentment. And it's all totally natural. Don't beat yourself up. You're human. It's totally natural. You have a good heart. You're doing God's work. He's proud of you. The person you're helping is proud of you. You should be proud of you. It's one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but it's also the most rewarding thing I've ever had to do. And doing it for my mother was a given. Doing it for my father-in-law was a given. The scary part is knowing that one day I'll need it. And who will be there for me? I don't have children. My partner, no one lives forever. It's scary. So I try not to think that far ahead. I try to appreciate the now. I don't know if you remember in a couple videos back, my mantra that I learned from Braden Holtby, my favorite hockey player, the goalie for the Washington Capitals. He says when he's in the zone and he's feeling pressure, he tells himself, I have no past, I have no future, I just have the present. So that's what I'm doing. Even though I'm starting over and I'm moving on, I'm taking it step by step and staying in the present. And that's the best thing any of us can do. So when you're feeling overwhelmed and the idea of starting over is scary, know you're not alone. It's been done by so many people. And if they can do it, we can do it. Which is cliche, but it's so true. And my mother used to always tell me, don't ever flatter yourself to think that there's something you have gone through or can go through that hasn't been done before. The world is very old. There are no new tricks. Be kind to yourself. Go step by step. And know that if you're scared for starting over, you're not alone. I'm petrified too. So we'll just start together. So that's my little rant for today. I hope this video finds you well, as usual. I'm starting to think that's the way I end all my videos, but I really do mean that. I do hope this video finds you well. I hope you find a topic in one of my videos that touches you. I hope you share it with someone, or it just makes your day. And until we meet again, I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.